G'day and welcome to the Niggly Niche Cast. It's the Niggly Dude, Dr. Pepper, Toey Panther, Mr. Doosra. Here to talk Plunket Shield cricket, intertwined with a little bit of New Zealand A and Blackcaps Test cricket, with the wobbly wildcard. How's the naughty north of Aotearoa?
Well, if we want to start with some prerequisite weather chat, then I can say that it's cleared up nicely and in time for them to get most of a day's play in that New Zealand 11 game against England yesterday, and probably should get all of a day's play today. And I'm hoping it's going to be bloody beautiful and sizzling on Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the New Zealand A game, which I saw you wrote a few words about as well.
Yes, and so while we are talking through these Plunket Shield scorecards, we will touch on relevant players selected in the New Zealand A squad, which just generally wildcard kind of feels like, I don't know, there's this weird situation that isn't a situation, it's just a weird little situation where it just seems like if you're in the T20 team, you're like next in line to play Test cricket. You know, like it's just how, like, they should just be preparing for a World T20, and then there's crossover, like we're using the T20 team as a development. Fringe guys get selected from the T20 team, then they're going to be selected for the ODI team and maybe the Test team. Like, it's just and I came across this when I was thinking about like Scott Kugelheim and Blair Tickner, who are selected in the New Zealand A team, but both feel a wee bit off the pace in terms of pushing for Test selection, but they're in the A team probably just because they just were in the Blackcaps T20 team as well.
Well, we have noted in the past how they tend to pick players for 2020 cricket, first of all, as a way of as a gateway into international cricket, and just it's sort of like half an international thing, and then moving on to ODI and Test if you're good enough, but there's not a lot of room in those ODI and Test squads at the moment, so you tend to get stuck in the 2020 squad. And so what we have there is guys playing 2020 internationals whose best format is Plunket Shield first class cricket.
Definitely. Well, Central Stags versus Canterbury. All these matches were a draw, so a bit of rain around that impacted the games. We'll start with the Central Stags hosting Canterbury in Nelson Wildcard. Just how did this game go down?
Well, Canterbury won the toss and chose to bowl. They then, after all we were talking about last week about them struggling for wickets, they then skittled Central Stags, the defending champs, for 164. Greg Hay top scored with 37 for the Stags. Fraser Sheet with 4 wickets, 4 for 52. Actually his best bowling figures in a first class match. Moving on to Canterbury's reply, they got through to 212 before they were all out. Murdoch with 75, he got the top skis. Will Luddick with 4 for 51. I have a feeling that was, in fact it was, also his best bowling figures in a first class game, so nice condition for the bowlers. I see Ray Toole, Seth Rans each got a couple wickets as well. Ducks for both Tom Latham and Hank Nichols, who have each turned up at points during the first 2 rounds of the Plunket Shield, but yeah, big old duck eggs for them in this one. And Central Stags in response, 287 for 9, Ben Smith with 82, Brad Schmulian with 63, but really the weather just kind of got in the way there. Matt Henry got 3 for 95. This was the theme of all of these games, was that rain affected play throughout the 4 days, and was just like, yeah, ultimately cost us a chance at any kind of result, but still got a few first, what do you call them, first innings points on show, which didn't really affect anything for anyone except for the Otago ND game, but we'll come to that one next time. What's your big takeaways from the Central Stags Canterbury game?
I'm still all about Brad Schmulian, who has started this season with a 50-plus score in every single game, and we've talked a fair bit about him, so we don't need to regurgitate like his situation with the Stags. But he's moved up to 3rd in all-run scoring, averaging 51 this season with those 3 half-centuries to his name. And the only other player who has passed 50 3 times this season
I bet I could guess.
is Devon Conway. Now, Devon Conway went a lot larger with his scores, but there's only 2 players who have passed 53 times this season, and that is Brad Schmulian and Devon Conway. So shout out to Brad Schmulian, still creeping under the radar. And then obviously the Fraser Sheet inclusion for the Canterbury team offered them a bit of hope with their bowling stocks. He doesn't look to do anything special. A couple of his wickets nip back into the right-handers, just medium pace stuff. Did get big wickets. Tom Bruce, Dane Cleaver, and Greg Hay in the first innings. And then he got Ben Smith after Ben Smith scored 82 in the second innings, and also Ajaz Patel later on in the innings. But yeah, Fraser Sheet just coming into that Canterbury attack and doing a bit of damage. Interesting to see how that Canterbury attack looks as we move into Ford Trophy cricket without Matt Henry, and just what they can do in domestic cricket in the Ford Trophy specifically. But yeah, a couple of undercover brothers there. Like, there's big names in that game. You mentioned Tom Latham, Henry Nicholls. Matt Henry did take a few wickets in each innings, and then the Stags are, stacked with familiar names. But it was Brad Schmulian and Fraser Sheet who commanded the most attention in that game.
Yeah, Fraser Sheet, 21 years old, from Christchurch. I was looking at a few of these sort of guys throughout these games. It seemed like every game had a 21-year-old who just did something impressive. So, I mean, we've been on that buzz for a little while there. You've been certainly flying that flag about the up-and-coming talent coming through. A lot of these, basically all the confederations. So, confederations, what do you call them? Teams, all the teams. So yeah, that's something. It's his 7th first-class game. He has taken 24 wickets at an average of 24 throughout his short career so far. Also his first game this season, wasn't it? So always good to see the young fellas stepping up and creating some pressure, and that's something that Canterbury needed as well, because they were, as we've been saying, but they have been struggling for wickets. On Matt Henry, I was just thinking about him because he wasn't playing. He obviously wasn't in the 2020 squad. Understandable reasons. It's not really where he shines. He has played all 3 games so far. He has bowled 115 overs, taken 9 wickets at 39.55. Obviously, yeah, like I said, not involved in the 2020 squad. The Test squad is about to be named. Probably it might have even been named by the time anyone hears this, which would be a bit annoying, but I don't know, it seems, we will talk about Lockie Ferguson later on when we come to the Auckland game, but it seems pretty obvious that he's about to be picked. They'll probably pick 13-man squads, I think, for home Test matches. I just wonder if Matt Henry's place in that Test team might be under a little bit of a threat.
It could be, and his start to the Plunket Shield hasn't quite been aligned with his status as Underground King, and I've actually labelled Brad Schmulian as the Underground King so far this summer. So it's a demotion.
Taking the crown.
Demotion for Matt Henry, averaging 39 this season, compared to his first class average career-wise of 25.15. So it's a dip in production and performance for Matt Henry. As far as Blackcaps selection go, there is a fairly consistent record for me personally, because I've talked about last season or the season before, one of them going into Test cricket, guys like Jeet Raval and BJ Watling were having shockers in Plunket Shield cricket, and then they just step up to the Test team and score runs in the Test arena. So for guys like that who are consistently part of the Test team and Test squads, it's all about what you do in Test cricket. We don't have a situation where we're picking, we're filling certain holes in the Test team with the best performers from Plunket Shield cricket. That's not really how Blackcaps and Plunket Shield cricket works in New Zealand. You've got a group of cricketers who are the Test cricketers, and they are the Test cricketers, and then you got to do stuff over multiple seasons and wait for a opening to get your chance, which is a great spot to be in. Obviously, it's not amazing if those dudes are winning selection without doing anything and they're just getting, massive doses of faith and trust, but whatever. The Test team performs pretty well at the moment, so it's a great sign. So that means that Matt Henry, he's going to be there. He's going to be there, and it's up to him to kind of lose his place, I think. There is a seduction to go with Lockie Ferguson. I understand that. Lockie Ferguson, you could view him as posing a greater threat, but the way we look at this Blackcaps team, I would suspect that if they are going to play four seamers, Trent Boult, Tim Southee, Neil Wagner, and then Matt Henry or Lockie Ferguson, they'll probably just go with Matt Henry because he's the incumbent. And then if he doesn't take that opportunity, they might look to Lockie Ferguson. But there is a decent record of these kind of guys, whether it's Tom Latham, whether it's Jet Raval, BJ Watling, Matt Henry, Neil Wagner. They might not have a great time in Plunket Shield cricket, but once they move up to Test cricket, they go all right.
Yeah, Matt Henry has been that guy who's almost like a specialist 12th man for the Test team. He's played one Test match in the last 2 years, and or not quite 2 years, one Test match in the last 23 months. It was at Wellington against Bangladesh last year. He bowled 24 combined overs for 2 wickets, average of 50-something. I can't work that out in my head looking at the innings list. So, he's always been that guy who people say needs more opportunities, pretty much pushed into the ODI team at this point. He's taken his chances there more or less, but Test match average is still 47.03, so it's one of those guys who, I don't know that he's ever quite got comfortable, and a lot of that's just because he hasn't been able to play regularly enough, because our frontline 3 seamers have just been too good for anyone else to get an opportunity. You're waiting for someone to get injured or to have a cheeky little rest. These games against England don't count in the Test Championship, so I think there is a scope for a little bit of just cheeky little rotation, and Lockie Ferguson seems like the guy. I mean, I'm 100% certain Ferguson will be in this Test squad. I've just reading the tea leaves here, the fact that he was released from the 2020 squad to play the last round of Plunket Shield seems to me a pretty obvious suggestion that he's going to be there. But Matt Henry's likely to be there as well, because first Test of the summer, it's probably going to be a little bit of a seamer. Where do they play? They play in Tauranga, and I think it's Hamilton, which aren't necessarily. I mean, those are not necessarily grounds where you think 4 seamers, but it's possible. I'm not sure. I don't. Yeah, until they name the squad, I don't want to speculate too much. But I'm pretty certain Ferguson will be there. I'm not 100% certain Matt Henry will, though.
Well, that's up to Matt Henry, isn't it? He's got to
I guess so.
Take his opportunities, and for a while there, it was Matt Henry is always going to be selected in this role, but as I've alluded to a few times now, things are changing with that depth coming in. So you're going to see a lot more of these scenarios where the incumbents have to perform, or else other guys are going to be knocking on that door.
Well, I think the thing that sets Ferguson apart is that with his pace, you really want him bowling on those Australian wickets, don't you? Where you're going to get a bit more bounce. And Matt Henry has played Test matches in Australia before. He was there in he played one Test in Perth in 2015. He got 2 for 105 and none for 53. He played against Aussie once in Christchurch as well and took none for 140 odd over 2 innings. So his record against Australia is not the best. And yeah, no, I'm almost confident enough to lay a wager on this that Ferguson will make his Test debut against England. It's just that I'm not 100% sure if Matt Henry will be there as well or not. He might end up getting 12th man duties once again, like he's so used to, or it might be a case of you play this one game, you play the other game, and whoever does better will take to Aussie. But yeah, I don't know. I will wait and see how that one pans out, I suppose.
Take us through Northern Districts Knights versus Otago Volts down in Otago.
Yeah, so this was the only game that actually altered the standings on the table with all these draws, because Otago did a little bit better in the old first innings points. They lost the toss, actually. Northern chose to bat, and Northern were then bowled out for 243. The two Michaels doing the damage there, 3 for 50 for Mike Ray, and Rippon with 4 for 60. With his little left arm leggies, which is always a beautiful sight to watch. leading the way for Northern Districts was Whangare's own Henry Cooper with 149. He scored 149 out of 243 runs. He only got out at the end because he was having a big old slog because, running out of partners down the other side. The next top scorer was Daniel Flynn with 20. So Henry Cooper with 149, Daniel Flynn with 20. Yeah, the two openers actually. So there you go. In response, Neil Wagner took 6 for 114, but Otago, who were at one point 6 for 107, with Nathan Smith and Mike Rippon at the crease, they then put together a 190-run partnership with Smith scoring his first-class century, went on to get 114, and Rippon was caught behind off Neil Wagner for 98, guts bro, both top first-class scores for those two, which gave Otago a nice little 106-run lead. And for a little while there in the last innings, or they looked like they might be able to do something. When BJ Watling was out, they Northern were 6 for 80, so 4 wickets left, 20-something odd to survive the thing. In the end, there wasn't anywhere near enough time. Rippon got 5 for 33, and Northern managed to bat out the overs in a heavily rain-affected game. I think they lost the first day. I think they might have lost the most, if not all, of the second day as well. So not a lot of cricket getting played, but some very, very entertaining scenes on the old video scorecard there, watching those last wickets and the boundaries towards the end where it's just like Rippon's bowling and everybody's in. There's I think it was Watling's wicket. There were 10 fielders all crowded around the pitch there, and probably I'm assuming only got more crowded as they really got desperate for those last ones. But yeah, it didn't quite get to where they could actually push realistically for a win. But Otago did sneak a couple extra bonus points from that one, so they do actually climb above Northern Districts on the table to second to last. But yeah, the star-studded Northern Districts team sitting last after 3 rounds as we hit the hiatus.
I am incredibly intrigued by Henry Cooper, not only because he scores a lot of runs, but because his birth date is unknown.
Really now?
The old Crick Info profile doesn't have a birth date on Henry Cooper. And yes, you did mention that he is from the north of Aotearoa and the north of Northern Districts. I think the only one in the squad too. And I believe so as well. The interesting thing about Henry Cooper wildcard is that he's a very good young, well, maybe he's young, maybe he's very old, we don't know, but I think he's young. He's a very good young opener. And there's another very good young opener who was selected once again for the New Zealand A team, and that is Rachin Ravindra, who opens the batting for Wellington Firebirds. And I've talked a lot about this. He made his New Zealand A debut before he made his Plunket Shield debut, and is quite clearly being fast-tracked to the fringes of Blackcaps cricket, and that's fantastic. I don't really have anything against the favourable treatment that Rachin Ravindra is receiving. That is what you want. You want young cricketers identified as having the skills and the ability to step up to international cricket, and then you want to nurture them through their growth stages and best prepare them for that step up. The thing here, though, is that Henry Cooper is just as good. So you had a New Zealand A team selected with both Rachin Ravindra and Hamish Rutherford. Rutherford, who is averaging 16 this season in Plunket Shield cricket. 2 games, 50 runs, 16.66 average. If Rachin Ravindra is receiving this favourable treatment, there is absolutely no reason why Henry Cooper shouldn't, because Henry Cooper has played 22 games of first-class cricket, and he is averaging 37. Rachin Ravindra has played 11 games of first-class cricket, and he is averaging 33. So again, I'm not saying Henry Cooper is better than Rachin Ravindra, I'm just saying that if Rachin Ravindra is receiving this favourable treatment, there's another young opener with the Knights who's damn good as well. And he is shown multiple times in the last kind of 2 seasons that he has some potential of being a dangerous or an enticing prospect. And I look at how he finished last season. The second stanza of Plunket Shield cricket last season started in February. He had scores of 37 not out, 41, 58, 36, 12, 27 and 78. Now that's a fairly solid finish to last season, and then he came out with this full bunga century. So just throwing that up there, that Rachin Ravindra is the dude who has been identified as having supreme skills. Henry Cooper, though, is the name to keep in mind as we move forward, because he has shown the same, if not more, desire to score runs as a young opener in Plunket Shield cricket, of which there aren't too many. There's not too many young openers doing the rounds at the moment.
Yeah, I'm having a look at some of these other guys from Northern Districts, though, because Barrett Popley had an alright game last time. He didn't do anything this time, but, Daniel Flynn has scored 80 runs at 16s. Dean Brownlee didn't play one of the games he's scored 61 runs at 29.61. BJ Watling scored 100 runs in 5 innings at 20. So, some of the experienced guys who they would be leaning on aren't really doing it, and it's good. It's pretty handy, very, very timely as well for that reason too, that Henry Cooper's coming in with some runs at a time when, not just for personal reasons and pushing himself forward, but also his team quite needs it at the moment, because they would have been lost without him in that game against Otago there, and then maybe Otago might have come through with a result there. What did you think of Michael Rippon, who hadn't played in the first 2 games, comes in here, takes, 9 for 93 across the match, 4 in the first, 5 in the second. He's just another one of these Kiwi African, well, he's actually Dutch African, isn't he? But another one of these South African born / African born spinners coming in and taking wickets in Plunket Shield this season. Malcolm Knopfels been overtaken by Neil Wagner at the top of the wicket standing, but it still has 15 wickets at 16 through the first few games. And now we've got Michael Rippon coming in and giving it a bit of a rip himself. Some of those, I already said this, but some of those video highlights were so much fun to watch, just seeing everyone. It's cricket has those little games within a game, and when you get everyone just crowded around the bat, it's craziness, and guys ducking out of the way, you can see when balls pop up and boundaries are hit and everyone goes flying. No one wants to get smashed in the back of the leg by a flying cricket ball. Good fun all around. But what do you reckon of that one? He just offers something a little different to Otago, doesn't he? And they're suddenly a team who's taken some wickets, and suddenly they're a team that's going to start threatening to win a few games and really upset a few of these other teams, having started with a bit of a hiding at the hands of Wellington. They then had the game rained off against Auckland last time, didn't they? And then this one ending in a rain-affected draw. But certainly signs of improvement, from throughout the. Well, it's not much of a season to go by so far, but signs of improvement along the way for Otago.
I think Rippon might have been injured because this is his first game of the season, and before this they were leaning more on Dean Foxcroft bowling spin, and then some overs here and there from guys like Nick Kelly and Dale Phillips. So they weren't playing with a frontline spinner. Dean Foxcroft does a handy job as a all-rounder spin option, but they were missing a frontline spinner, and then Michael Rippon comes straight back into the team and does a fairly good job as part of that Otago Volts team. It'll be interesting to see how this flows into their Ford Trophy campaign, because I'm actually fascinated by what happens in the Ford Trophy, and who steps up and who dominates and which teams are coming out and performing. Because as we've seen in this opening stanza of Plunket Shield cricket, the Knights and the Volts are struggling, but it presents an opportunity for them to come in and step up to the plate. Someone like Dean Foxcroft was very good in the Ford Trophy last year, and then you look at their other new recruit, Nick Kelly. His kind of skill set is better suited to white ball cricket, but he does a good job in all formats, but he's definitely a dynamic batsman and very good fielder. And then we got to talk about Nathan Smith, who hit his first century wildcard, but it's something that has been brewing since last season, because he kind of started off down the order. He was primarily a seam bowler, and then I think he batted as high as number 5 in the Plunket Shield last summer. And I mentioned the second stanza of Plunket Shield cricket last season with regards to Henry Cooper and how he finished the season. Check out these numbers from Nathan Smith batting last season. He had so 1st of March was when he came back into the Plunket Shield, and he hit 45, then he had a 75 not out, then he had a 46, then he had a 47 not out, 15, then this year he's come out with 24, 0, and 114. So Nathan Smith is someone who came into first-class cricket as a bowler, and then he started to really establish himself as an all-rounder, and it's not surprising to see him come out with a century here and show some potential. So he's another player, like guys like even someone like Jacob Duffy's got a way better record in one-day cricket than 4-day cricket. And this is a young Otago team, and I just think the skill set of these guys, Dale Phillips as well, younger brother of Glen Phillips, so maybe he bats a certain way. Well, Glen Phillips, as we've consistently said, bats very well across all formats, but I just think that younger crew of Otago Volts, Dale Phillips, Dean Foxcroft, Nick Kelly, maybe Mitch Renwick, Nathan Smith, Jacob Duffy, Bacon, Ray, those type of dudes just seem like they could enjoy a bit of success in the Ford Trophy along with the experience of Anaru Kitchen and Michael Rippon.
Yeah, loved watching Michael Ray steaming in there, bowling some, medium paces with the old headband on. Just always a sight to behold when the bowlers get out, especially the seam bowlers, when they pull out the odd headband. Shades of Chris Martin back in the day and all that. And the other thing I'll add here is, a lot of the success that Otago, relative success, they would have been in a very good position to push for a victory if this game had continued on another day, if circumstances had allowed. But a lot of that comes down to that partnership they were able to get between Nathan Smith and Michael Rippon, that 190 run partnership. And I'll just add here that there's a little bit of redemption involved there, because at about the same time last season, those same two guys were involved in a bit of a viral howler of a run out, which got plenty of shares around. I believe it turned up on some of our socials as well, to where one guy went to run, slipped over, the other guy started running, stopped when he saw the other guy slipped over, he slipped over, and then by the time the bails were taken off, both of them were lying on the ground at the same time. So yeah, for these guys to come back a year later, put together a record partnership and put Otago in a dominant position in that match, lovely redemption story there.
I believe Mr. Ray might be the only headband bowler on the scene at the moment as well.
He's the only one I've seen this season, but it doesn't. There's time. It's only going to get hotter and sweatier as the summer goes along.
Yeah, bit weird wearing a sweatband early November in
Otago, I know, especially in a
but
rain effect. Maybe he's trying to get the rain out of his eyes or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's more just a fashion
Comfort,
habit type of thing.
Yeah, fashion. Yeah,
not a practical usage of the headband, because he's got no hair as well.
Well, no, that's the thing. I was just thinking, because Chris Martin is the same age. I mean, Chris Martin always used to wear it. We never had any hair. I have a vague memory of Chris Martin first playing first class cricket, and he had real long sort of hippie type hair and looked like Neil from the Young Ones, if that reference catches anyone. But I'm not sure if that's true, because I've never actually found the photographic evidence. So if anyone actually does know whether that's true or not, or if maybe I just dreamed it one day. But yeah, certainly he used to wear the headband with no hair whatsoever. And is that a thing? Do bald people just sweat more? Maybe the hair catches it a bit better? I don't know. I'm not sure if this is something if there is maybe a practical reason behind this at all, but you tend to see that. Hey, look at the NBA. Who's the most prominent headband wearer out there? It's LeBron James, who notoriously struggles with his hairline.
That is a lot of hair talk, and
It is probably too much.
We'll go to the Wellington Firebirds and Auckland Aces wildcard. What went down? Where was that one? Basin Reserve.
Yeah, the nice green Basin Reserve, and the Aces won the toss. They chose to bowl, and then, yeah, it turned out to be a very good decision because they skittled Wellington, who have been, the form team through the first 2 weeks. They skittled them for 91. Devon Conway, of course, top scored, but he only top scored with 22 this time. And Lockie Ferguson picked up 4 for 23. Matt McEwen, who's just so much fun to watch steaming in and taking wickets, as he consistently does too, always takes wickets, 3 for 28 for him. Sean Solier got a couple. It seems like Sean Solier is emerging as a bit more of a bowling option as well. We'll come back to him. Moving on to the second innings, Auckland's response was decent under the circumstances. They got through to 217. Robbie O'Donnell with 60 not out. And Ben Sears sizzling away with 6 for 43 for Wellington. He will certainly be a guy we focus a bit of this chat on. And then, the rain fell. Nothing really happened. 104 for 2 Wellington were in response when the game was finally called off. So Devon Conway with a cheeky 32 not out in that second innings as well. So I suppose a bit of red ink does decent, something decent for the average, as if he needs to add to his average at any point after. I mean, his triple hundred last round, if he had scored golden ducks in every other time he's come to bat, he would still be the top run scorer in the competition through the first 3 rounds. So, but let's talk about Ben Sears to start. He's another one of these 21-year-olds, just like Nathan Smith, just like Fraser Sheet. He looks quick, man. His 6 for 43, his best first-class figures. I noticed, I was having a look at the wickets, his first 3 were all to left-handers, just sort of like pitching it up and let the ball swing back into them. He skittled Jeet Raval, I think it was. And then later on came in, took a couple wickets against the right hands, but just like dropping it short and roughing them up a bit. I think he got Ben Horn first ball, I believe, with the short one. So tell me about this dude, because those were some impressive highlights.
Yeah, those first 3 wickets, including Jeet Raval. He got Jeet Raval, then Mark Chapman and Sean Solier, all left-handers, and all those dismissals either took the inside edge or went past the inside edge. And then when he dropped in short to the right-handers, the ball was kind of moving into the right-hander, so the opposite way of those wickets that he took earlier in the innings, which is, I don't know if that's skill moving the ball both ways, or just a factor of his action when he drops short, it's going to come into you as a right-hander. But yeah, it was interesting straight through the gate of Jeet Raval. And yeah, it's hard to assess how fast he's bowling. Like, he did make Ben Horn jump a little bit, and Ben Horn's never gets mentioned as any kind of talented wicketkeeper batsman, but he's part of that wicketkeeper batsman crew who are decent batsmen. So if you're making him jump, that's kind of a good sign. And I think he's got to do this over a far longer period of time than he's shown at the moment. Like, he's played 3 first-class games, 5 2020s, and 5 one-dayers. He's averaging below 30 in all formats, 20 in first-class cricket, 27 in one-day cricket, and 18.16 in T20 cricket. Again, presenting another intriguing player to watch as we move forward into the Ford Trophy. And what's he going to do there? And we'll get a better idea of just how quick he's bowling and how, because obviously batsmen are going to be a wee bit more attacking. So, but it's fabulous if you want to bowl fast or if you want to bowl 140 Ks, but against better batsmen who are more eager to take you on, that can end up just being the perfect speed to bowl at. So I think we're going to learn a bit more about Ben Sears moving through the Ford Trophy and then into Super Smash as well. And he's kind of playing in a Wellington team that doesn't have Hamish Bennett or Ollie Newton. So there's plenty of competition for spots in that Wellington Firebirds bowling attack as well. And at the moment, Mr. Sears is the best Wellington bowler of the season so far. So that's a good start.
Yeah, 9 wickets at 15.22. So he's played. This was his second game. So yeah, I mean that's take your opportunities. He's done that so far, but at the start of your career, all taking your opportunities means is that you get more opportunities, which you then have to take in order to maintain things. So yeah, it's a good start though. It's he looked quick, but yeah, I agree with you. You do need to see it. I was going to say, we would get a look at him on telly, not so much with the speed rate, but just to be able to watch it in like a decent thing. But of course, the Ford Trophy's not actually on television until the final, so maybe wait till the Super Smash starts. I don't know. It's Ford Trophy next week though, isn't it? So we're getting straight into the one-day stuff after this. Jeet Raval. Not scoring a lot of runs at the moment, is he? You already mentioned him earlier on, to look at like one of those guys who doesn't necessarily have to dominate this Plunket Shield stage because he knows his game. He knows what he's doing when he steps up to the test arena, but also like trying to find his stats on the top 50 run scorers on the thing, and he's not there. So he's played every game, I'm pretty sure, and he's not on the unless I spelled his name wrong. No, he's not on the old thing. So they're not the best signs of form for Jeet Raval coming into a test series where he's going to have to face, Jofra Archer, Stuart Broad, etc.
Auckland and Otago didn't play one game, so that could if he got like scores of 20 and 13 in that game against Otago, he might be on the run scoring leaderboard. Because Trent Bolt is the last man on the run scoring leaderboard with 45 runs. So
44 came with him in one innings.
Yeah, if Jeet Raval did play in that bat in that Otago game that was rained off, he might have snuck on there with more than 45 runs. But at the moment, he's got 24 runs. And that's
Scores
not good.
Of 7, 3, and 14, yeah.
And then you extrapolate that out to his last kind of test sightings. The first test against Bangladesh earlier this year, he got 132. That's good. And then after that second test, he got 3. And then versus Sri Lanka, he got scores of 33, 4, and 0. So Jeet Raval has not scored over 40 since February 28th this year. And that was a century. So his best score in the last 7 innings is 33. So, yeah, now we're looking at a Jeet Raval who I suspect will just bat solidly in the test against England, regardless of what kind of scores he puts up. As we have consistently said, we just want our Blackcaps Test openers to see off 15 to 20 overs. And if that happens, job done, all good. We'll take whatever runs you can get. So I am setting my bar of performance baseline for Jeet Raval, just solid performances against England. They're a good bowling attack, so if Jeet Raval does get starts, that is going to be very good for Jeet Raval moving forward, especially with the talent that is around him. Tom Latham, Ross Taylor, Kane Williamson, Henry Nicholls. You have mentioned numerous times about the freakish statistics of our current test batting lineup. And I think, obviously we want Jeet Raval to score big runs. And obviously Jeet Raval wants to score big runs. But as a baseline in this Blackcaps Test team, Jeet Raval's job is just to see off the new ball and lay the platform for everyone else. That's his role when you look at how talented that batting lineup is in Test cricket.
Even with that century, though, I'm having a peek at his stats. If you go back to the start of 2018, he has played 11 Test matches. I don't believe he's missed one. I think that's all the Tests that New Zealand have played in that time. And even with that century, he still only averages 26.5 overall with 100, 150, 2 ducks. He, in his first 9 Test matches, passed 56 times in 15 innings, so he's passed 50 twice in 17 innings since then. The one positive you can say of that is that thing of where, like, because his career average is 34.64, which looks pretty good. Like, for that to be the worst number in our top six is actually kind of not just incredible, but unprecedented for a New Zealand Test batting lineup, I think. So that on the whole, like, the pressure's not really on him because everyone else around him is scoring runs, and so yeah, it is really just his job to blunt the new ball and allow Kane Williamson and Ross Taylor to come in the best possible circumstances. And even throughout this period where he hasn't been scoring so many runs, he is still averaging 62 deliveries per innings, and over those tests, only scoring 26.52 runs per innings, but averaging 62 deliveries. So he's batting at least, well, you'd probably say that's about 20 overs. He's facing 62 deliveries himself. Latham's probably facing a similar amount at the other end. So if Kane Williamson isn't coming in inside the first 20 overs, that's still a good platform to be supplying. So I don't think there's massive pressure on him, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on because he has not really, like, that 100 against Bangladesh has kind of like it got the obvious monkey off his back of not having scored the 100 after getting a bunch of 50s leading up, getting a bunch of starts, not quite going on with a big one. But it has also clouded the fact that he has actually been trending in the wrong direction over that time. But yeah, maybe, who knows, he'll come up and score like 150 against England in the first test, and then nothing will be the problem whatsoever.
And Raval's struggles aren't really unique in that Auckland batting lineup, considering Robbie O'Donnell is the best Auckland batsman, and he is 26th in Plunket Shield runs. He has 98 runs, and 60 of those came in one innings, and it was a not out. So he's got a very good average of 49, but he's only scored 98 runs. And then next best is Will Somerville, Glen Phillips, and apart from that kind of little anomaly that is Robbie O'Donnell, because he does have a not out, so his average is quite high, all the other Auckland batsmen are averaging below 30 or around 30. So, well, except for Mara Guptill, big 34.5, but there's not a whole lot of runs being scored by that Auckland Aces batting lineup. Sean Solia has been batting number 4, I believe, for the Aces. Number 5, and he doesn't feature on the top run scorers either. So that kind of tells you about where the Aces batting lineup is at right now. No Jet Raval, no Sean Solia in the top 50 run scorers of Plunket Shield thus far. So it's not like Jet Raval is suffering a deep, troubling drop in form outside of like a strong performing Auckland Aces batting lineup. It's more a case of Jet Raval's Plunket Shield campaign this season has matched what is happening with the Auckland Aces batting lineup.
Yeah, when your second top run scorer is Will Somerville, who has never scored a first class 50, that's not a great indication of success. But they did beat Central Districts in that first game, though. Sean Solia's numbers, he has scored 1, 0, and 25 in his 3 innings this season so far, so that's obviously not ideal. But he has also taken 5 wickets at... Where is he? 5 wickets at an average of 22.2. So his little... he doesn't look anything more than medium pace, but he's doing something because he's picking up a few, and it's not like he got them all in one gulp either. He's taken wickets in 3 of the 4 innings that he's bowled in, so chipping away a little bit there, pushing his case to be an all-rounder, although maybe it's really just pushing his case to be a bowler at this point because he's got to start scoring some runs. But like you say, that's the case with all of these Auckland batsmen. Glen Phillips hasn't done anything dramatic yet like we would have hoped considering how good he was last season. I mean, he came good, especially in the second half of the season, so I expect that from him again, a guy of his level. But yeah, Auckland, it's like the other thing though is, as we've said a couple times, Auckland's numbers are skewed by the fact that they didn't get out there against Otago in that second game. But yes, there are some things that need to improve if they want to sustain a challenge for the for the championship at the end of the Plunket Shield season.
I am curious to get your thoughts, Wildcard, as we wrap this up, on a couple of the New Zealand A selections, because someone like I'm a fan of Glen Phillips, but Glen Phillips, it's just a situation where it feels like the Blackcaps decision makers, I don't know if they're paying any attention to what is happening in Plunket Shield, or if they just have their guys they want to see in the mix, in the group, and just be around, and regardless of the format, we just want these dudes part of a New Zealand A setup, because Glen Phillips was selected after scoring 85 runs at 28.33. Hamish Rutherford was selected for New Zealand A duties after averaging 16 in Plunket Shield cricket. Who else do we have here? Rachin Ravindra deserved selection pretty much. Daryl Mitchell scored a century in his lone appearance for Northern Districts Knights. And then, you mentioned to me, Scott Kugerline's bowling, T20 international bowling record. Neither him nor Blair Tickner was overly lethal in the T20 international series. Blair Tickner does have a fairly solid game of Plunket Shield cricket under his belt. He took 4 wickets against Auckland, I think it was, in the first game at 22.75, so it was a good performance from him. It just feels like there's a bit of a scattered selection policy here for the New Zealand A team, with some guys just being kept around after the T20 series. You got Ajaz Patel and Will Somerville kind of battling for the spin spot. You don't have Matt Henry and Lockie Ferguson warming up for a test as part of a New Zealand A team even. You've got it just feels like they've just taken guys from that T20 series and just chucked them straight into a New Zealand A team. Scott Kugerline, Daryl Mitchell, Jimmy Neesham, Blair Tickner, Tim Seifert, all of those dudes just come straight in. So I tried to write about this morning, and I just it just confused me, because there's no overarching trend here. Hamish Rutherford doesn't have many runs. He's in the team. Daryl Mitchell has heaps of runs this season. Plunket Shield, 1 game, 1 century. He's in the team. Jimmy Neesham, who knows what the plan is with Jimmy Neesham? He's all over the show. He didn't play in the Sri Lanka T20 series. He's in and out of the T20 team. Who knows what's going there? You've got Tom Blundell and Tim Seifert in the same team, which I don't mind, because they're both very good batsmen. But my idea here is I can't see any plan in place. Even the idea of just having a group of really talented young cricketers. Rachin Ravindra and Kyle Jamieson are the only real young up-and-comers who have potential, who have been identified as we need to get them in the A system and just give them time. But they haven't leaned too far into that. I don't know if you're catching my drift here, Wildcard, but in trying to write about it, I just felt very scattered and all over the show in trying to assess how this New Zealand A team was selected for a 3 or 4 day, I can't remember, 3-day. So how are you feeling just about that New Zealand A team, based on my idea that it's just kind of all over the show?
I can't disagree with that. It is a bit scattered. It's a bit we've drawn from this idea, we've drawn from this idea, we've drawn from that idea, because you've got the guys who have been in the 2020 side playing against, although this is a very different, the England Test team and the England 2020 team, they might even be completely different, with the exception of Johnny Bairstow, who's hanging around as cover. But yeah, it's weird. You got guys from that thing. You've got guys who have been around a couple years on the fringes. You've got guys who are you've got those. I think the thing about Jamieson and Ravindra that stands out to me there is I'm pretty sure they're the only two that haven't. In fact, they are, right? They are the only two who haven't represented New Zealand internationally at any point yet, other than obviously the under 20s and stuff like this, and A tours and A games such as this one. This is a proper first class game as well, from what I understand. So stats are on the line. I don't see much of a rhyme or reason other than the idea that they've just plucked a bunch of players from the general pool of like guys who are on that next tier of players pushing for regular Blackcaps selection, but not quite at that point yet. Or in the case of someone like Jimmy Neesham, someone who is a regular selection but not currently at longer format things, and then obviously they've got Somerville and Ajaz both in there, probably because you're only picking a maximum of 2 spinners in this test squad. So that's the thing that stands out to me the most of this squad here, is like in terms of what is there actually to play for. Most of these guys are just getting some experience, looking to improve their stakes and the longer form of things. There are a lot of test matches coming up, so you want to keep your your name in the hat there. You want to be putting pressure on the guys above you, and putting your hand up if someone should get injured or whatever. There's a little bit of rotation around, so most of those guys fall in that category. But I think Somerville and Ajaz are in a state where like those two are fighting for one spot probably, and that also depends on what you think of Mitchell Santner and Ish Sodhi. I think Ish Sodhi is 4th out of 4 at the moment. Hey, let's chuck in Todd Astle as well. He should be in this conversation as well, and probably should be disappointed not to have been picked for this team actually, because if you're picking an actual New Zealand A team, he might be a little more in the mix. But to me, the only pattern I see here is that I don't know if they know who they're going to pick to be their spinner in this game, and I wonder if Mitchell Santner, it would make a lot of sense from a nonsensical Blackcaps selection point of view to just go with Santner because he dominated the 2020 series, even though his test stuff is just like there's nothing there that says this man deserves selection above the others. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but those 2 spinners are definitely that's the area I want to keep my main focus upon. Yeah, there's a lot of different things we could try to figure out. It's just a team of guys on the edge, though, isn't it? Really, like they've just picked from a bunch of different thought processes. They've said you are on the fringe of this team. You've been playing 2020, so just come and hang out. Maybe we're looking at you for a spot down the line. These 2 guys we want to give experience to because we see them as future options, and you 2 guys right here, we need to figure out which one of you spinners we're going to pick. So you guys go head to head right here.
Yeah, it's a little bit crazy, but generally it is a collection of cricketers who are in that second tier. So overall, it's a good New Zealand A team, but when you get into the details, it's like, is this a New Zealand A team for 1-dayers, T20s, 3-dayers? Are we going like younger? Are we going older? Format. What are we doing here? So it is a little bit strange. I think Mitchell Santner is straight back into the test team, and I don't think neither Ajaz Patel or Will Somerville are going to be in the test squad. So that makes for an interesting little scenario there, although Ajaz Patel was the leading wicket taker of all bowlers in the Blackcaps versus Sri Lanka Test series. So perhaps there might be an idea of just easing Mitchell Santner throughout the summer, especially with more white ball cricket coming up, and they might just lean towards Ajaz Patel playing as a test spinner. So it just depends on, a bunch of different factors, and we're trying to get a gauge on what the thought process of the Blackcaps is after just telling you how scattered the thought process for this New Zealand A team appears to be. So we've got no fucking clue what's going on, and we just kind of got to wait and see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Mitchell Santner is the only spinner they pick in the squad to face England, but I would be a bit disappointed because it's just be getting back to my my Guptill syndrome theory, which is not separating the formats when you judge them on their reputations, because Mitchell Santner's test stats say nothing about a player who should be considered for selection, but time and time again, he gets opportunities and I don't mean to hold this again, like Guptill syndrome again. This doesn't count in any way against his limited overs stuff where he is first choice in both teams. But in the red ball stuff, he's just not a wicket taker. And in a test match, you need to take 20 wickets to win. Run rate pressure is not a factor. And he is not going to do that. Certainly not on New Zealand pitches against this England batting lineup, I don't think, as well. So he shouldn't be in the squad, but I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if he is. I would personally do what you said, and Santner as a specialist ODI and T20 spinner, and I would go with Ajaz Patel. But I mean, you could go either way with that one, can't you? When you're splitting between Patel and Somerville, you could probably lean in either direction. But I wonder, the thing that splits Santner's reputation is his batting, and we do have 3 bowlers who are likely to be batting 9, 10 and 11, and Southee, Wagner, Bolt, which would only change if Somerville and Patel are also in that conversation. So I wonder, maybe Todd Astle, even though his bowling stats in the Plunket Shield have been terrible so far, he did score a 50 at one point, didn't he? It might have even been in this game, I forget. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Todd Astle maybe even got a nod, just because that's the way that, for the balance of the squad, I'll say. I don't think it would be the right decision, but for the balance of the squad.
I mean, at this stage, I wouldn't be surprised if Shody was selected, to be honest.
Bloody all over the place, eh?
Yeah.
So, especially with the spinners.
I will throw up this to finish with wildcard. Mitchell Santner averages 41.66 with the ball under Kane Williamson as captain.
Which is probably better than his career average, wouldn't it be?
His career average, I think, is in the 30s, 39. Okay. And then under Brendan McCullum, he averaged 31, and one test under Ross Taylor, he averaged 35. So that's Mitchell Santner, and that's another episode of the Niche Cast. Thank you very much for listening. Shout out to everyone listening. If you do want to support the Niche Case, jump on Patreon, straight up the guts, or like and review and share and just be a nice person about the Niche Case and the Niche Cast. And that will be it for basically cricket podcast this week. When does the Ford Trophy kick off, Wildcard?
I believe it is late next week. I can find out for you. Quick stat, if I hit the old New Zealand cricket scorecard, back to the thing, fixtures, here we go.
17th
17th it is, yes.
And we've also got the women's one-day competition starting up next week as well, so they'll run in conjunction with each other, and we'll be all over both competitions. So just tune in to the Niche Case and get your domestic cricket fix. Otherwise, kia kaha, stay beautiful, and we'll catch you next time. Cha-cha.